name's J.D. Weagley. I'm a senior instructional designer at Purdue. I've been at Purdue for about a year and a half. And in that time, I've had the chance to work with our brand new Pan Purdue programs. Basically, what that means is that these programs are part of a wide group of departments within the college or within the university. So, like our master's in AI, I believe has 8 or 9 different college departments that are a part of that program. And it's supported by Purdue University Online, which is the department that I'm a part of. And in my role I basically serve as support for the instruction, help to update courses, all that fun stuff that, many of us as instructional designers do. But really I've had an interest in AI even before I started at Purdue, and just kind of seeing what and how we can use it to make our jobs a little bit easier, because we all know that time is a bit of a challenge sometimes. So first off, in the chat, I'd love to know, how have you used AI in your course development? For those of you that are instructional designers, if we have any instructors in the room, I'd love to know how you've used it as well. Just go ahead and post a few things. And I'm going to go through in just a few minutes kind of some of the ways that I have used it, and some of the ways that some of my colleagues have used it as well within Purdue. Lots of great ways I'm seeing. Outlines, objectives, which I'm definitely going to be talking a little bit about objectives, learning activities. So yeah, lots of great uses here. And many of them are some of the things that I'm going to be looking at and talking about a little bit as we go through this webinar. So first off, I want to bring this quote up. And I don't know how many people are familiar with Ethan Mollick, but the question now is not whether AI will change education, but how we will shape that change to create more effective, equitable, and engaging learning, or equitable and engaging learning environment for all. So Ethan Mollick, this is from his blog, I guess. One useful thing. He's got lots of great insights, but thinking about how we are going to shape this to make it effective, equitable, and engaging, because AI, it's here. I don't see it going anywhere in the near future. It's going to be one of those things that we're going to be having to work with, and that we get to work with in some cases, but it's figuring out ways that we can make it work best for us. So some of the ways that why we might want to use AI, for me, a lot of it is to save time and to be able to focus on aspects of a course or projects that I need to be working on for me personally. But, through the courses I'm designing, I want to use it to hopefully adapt content so that it's better for all learners. I want to make sure that it fits what the learners need, and that it, is going into our next one, the equitability. I want to make sure that it is accessible to learners as well. So being able to make sure that, our content has different, that we've got different ways that we can present our information within courses. And AI can definitely help us do that. And we also want to make sure that it's engaging. So by adding interactive elements to a course, having AI agents or tutors in the course, generating audio based on content. Again, that all of these kind of tie in together to help to make the course more engaging for students, and potentially bringing content to students in a way that makes sense to them, or that they best are able to ingest and use that information. So there's also a lot of challenges that are involved with, with course design. And I've listed a few of those challenges. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but we face pedagogical challenges when we're designing courses and developing courses. We need to make sure we're aligning our course outcomes and our course objectives We're incorporating, ways that students can do active learning and that they're able to interact with that content. We need to make sure that we're balancing the cognitive load. And we need to make sure that we've got a group of diverse, that we're meeting the needs of our diverse learners that we have within our courses. Technological challenges. There's so many tools out there. Figuring out the best tools that students need and that they can use. We also need to look at accessibility challenges or accessibility issues of those tools. Where might students lack being able to use the tools? And some of the tools they don't have some of the features that we might need. And maybe that the ideal tool may not exist to meet the needs of what we want to accomplish. For content development challenges, time. That's the biggest one, I think, for just about every instructional designer I've ever talked to, is that, there's not enough time in the day to do everything that they need to get done. Sometimes it has to do with the availability of the subject matter expert, the instructor that we're working with. Their schedules are crazy as well, and being able to, get them on a regular meeting schedule can sometimes be a challenge when working with them to help them develop their courses. We also want to make sure that we're ensuring quality and accuracy within courses. So we want to make sure that our information, is right. We want to make sure that our links work, all that kind of stuff that goes into it. And then, of course, aligning content with objectives. We want to make sure everything fits together, as it should. We also have student-centered challenges. So meeting the needs of diverse learners, getting students engaged, and building learner autonomy. So we want to make sure, again, that we're focused on the student within these courses. And then again, the things that we can't control ever are some of the institutional challenges or some of the logistical stuff. There might be a timeline and, it is what it is. The semester starts in 3 weeks. We need to have that course done. Or, there's some resources that just haven't been created yet that, that we may need, or that there's a policy in place that can be a bit of a challenge, because we have to meet specific criteria. Maybe there's a lack of data or analytics available, to be able to see what student interactions are like in courses. So there's a variety of things that we may need to be looking at when we're developing courses. And AI is not the answer to all of these challenges, but AI can help us to overcome some of these challenges. So one thing that I want to look at is where you can use AI. And these are some of the ways in which I have used AI and some of the ways that my colleagues have used AI within courses, within their course developments. So the first one I'm going to look at is developing assessments. And obviously, I don't expect you to be able to read this graphic, and I'm going to show you something that we've done here. But I was given the task of updating all of our AI micro credentials to make sure that we were going through ABET certification for micro credentials. We're actually the first university to have micro credentials certified by ABET, and we needed to make sure that we had quizzes for each of the modules because not all of them were set up in that manner. We also needed to have some that had finals at the end of the courses because some of them were also getting converted from a non-credit to a credit base. So we needed to have some sort of measurement within there. And the thing is, I didn't have faculty to work with. I needed to do this on my own. The only thing I could do with faculty was I asked them to check some things. They were able to do that. So basically, I went to AI because I am not an expert in a lot of these micro AI courses. There's some of them that I probably could have written quizzes for, but there were enough that there was no chance. So I was able to go to AI and create some quizzes for these courses. And I'm going to show you one of the examples of a way that I did that. So I did use ChatGPT for most of these. With Purdue, within my department in course production, we actually have a model here to help, or basically it doesn't train the data based upon what we submit to it. So basically, I'm gonna pop in three. These are three captions or transcripts for some lectures, and I want to create 10 multiple choice questions. And like I may want to put in that, what the level of the course is or something along those lines, but I'm just going to do something simple like that. And then and I'm also going to say, have it mark the correct answer, because it doesn't always give me the correct answer when I've done that in the past. So I always like to make sure that it marks the correct answer. So as you can see, it's giving me these questions. And right now, this is great and all, but I want to put it in our LMS. And right now, I can't take this information and put it in we use Brightspace. So what I'm going to do here may not be may not be the same steps that you may need to do for your course or for your LMS. But what I want to do is I'm going to have it remove all the numbers and the letters and put a star in front of the correct answer. So when I do that, this works most of the time. I will say this, it doesn't always. And in this case, it's not. It gets weird sometimes. So sometimes you have to reprompt it. I'm going to show you what it might look like. The reason why it puts the correct answer in a italicized format is the way basically it's a formatting thing. And sometimes it does 2 stars instead of 1, and then it puts it italicized. It's annoying. And I did run into that issue a number of times, but I do have some that are already created because, so right here, I had a very similar prompt after it created quizzes. Yeah. And I just saw your question pop up there, and that is a great one. Let me get to that in just a moment, okay? So right here, it's, it does mark then the answer. And so now what I would do is I can copy that, and then there's some tools out there that will create the upload file that I can then upload to Brightspace to automatically create the quiz for me. So I don't have to go in and like re-enter in all these questions by hand. So right here, this one I created 20 questions on. And if I were to do that by hand, or if the instructor were to do that, it's going to take a little bit of time to be able to do that. So Anne posted the question, does ChatGPT always select the correct answer? And no, it doesn't. However, I have had very good success. That's why I like to bring the instructor into the mix with this and have them review the questions to make sure that the answers are correct. I usually give it the first look on it before I give it to the instructor. And, so if I do happen to catch something, then I can fix that. But I ask the instructors to go through it, and it takes them, 10 minutes to look through the 20 questions at the most. Usually there's more than that, but it gives them a chance to look through those. If there are bad questions, we can just eliminate those, because usually I set these up as pools within Brightspace. So that was really helpful to just be able to get a lot of questions in a short period of time. You can also do the same thing if you use Copilot. So if you have access to Copilot, again, I'm using 4.0 on ChatGPT. It does work better than 3.5, but it can definitely be done with other versions. And again, Copilot does a similar thing. And I was able to prompt it in the same way, and it did the same thing. So again, I can just copy and paste. I can highlight these, copy it, paste it into again, a quiz question converter basically, and get that file that I need. I have tried to get ChatGPT and Copilot to create that file for me, and it does not do a great job with that. So, but again, this can save a lot of time, especially like I said, if you don't have access to your faculty on a regular basis, but you need to get some quizzes done, things like that. I've had a lot of great success with that. Next up, and I know a lot of people have used ChatGPT or Copilot or just AI in general to create course objectives. And so here, basically what I did, I have a file that I uploaded, and it had content from the course. So in this case, we actually have the entire course in a PDF. It was just the way this course was put together by the instructor to begin with. So I was actually able to take his information and be able to kind of, in a way, go the roundabout way to make sure that we had some decent objectives as a starting point. The objectives, most of the time, they turn out pretty good. They always need to be adjusted though. So I would never just use these as they are. And again, I can show you an example of this. So this is actually, again, like I said, that document. This is in Copilot. I did the same thing there. I uploaded the same document, and it actually has 3 modules in it. And I was able to pull those. Now, if I didn't have this type of a document from a faculty member, but we had some additional information, oops, that was the wrong one. What I can do is put in, if there's some readings, if there's some, lecture content, things like that, I can pull those that way. It's not the ideal way, I know, within course design, but when you already have a bunch of content and your objectives are maybe weak or they need strengthening up to make sure that they do align, this is a way to kind of get around that. I've also been able to go from, like, I've got a course description and I need course learning, objectives. So I give it the course description and say, create 6 course learning objectives for this course, and say, this is a graduate level course, give it a little bit of detail, and it will give me objectives. Again, just like with this, some of them are good, some of them need adjusting, but it definitely works out pretty well. Oh, and okay, so Annie, to get for the instructor, yes, he had no problems with me doing this because it was helping us. And also, again, with our version of ChatGPT, it doesn't use any of the data to train, so we do have that, which is nice. But yes, you do want to make sure you do have permission to use instructor content and things like that within the AI. That was a good question. So another thing, again, I saw some of this posted within, when I asked earlier on how you've used it, creating some alt text within a course or for a course. And sometimes, an image like this particular one wouldn't be difficult to create alt text for, but sometimes you get some images that are a little more complicated or that have a lot of parts, and it can be very tedious sometimes to create some of that alt text and to make sure that it's concise, that it meets the needs for our learners. So in this case, one of my colleagues, she actually used the prompt, could you please write concise alt text that a learner using a screen reader could easily figure out? And she gave it this image, and she was able to get a nice solid piece, or a nice solid alt text. And yes, this might be a little bit long for some, which I do see that mentioned there. And there are some ways, so it may need to be revised a little bit. In this case, I believe this was used in a PowerPoint. So it definitely, there are definitely instances where we need to look at some of those links, and you can adjust that. Actually, even in ChatGPT, I was able to create this project where if I wanted to just, it's not perfect. I'm still playing with it. But basically, I just drag this in here and I hit go. I don't even have to tell it anything because I have instructions preset. And it's going to give me some alt text. Obviously, we've got a list here, so that wouldn't be perfect, but at least we could um, work with this a little bit. So that, again, this is a good starting point for us in this case. But basically what I did on this was I just created some instructions. So like I probably need to make sure that I add in here that it doesn't create lists or something along those lines. So that, so there's some different instructions that need to be adjusted, within this as they're found. So one of my least favorite things to do is to create rubrics. I don't know about anybody else, but I do not enjoy it in the least. And what we can do though is to use ChatGPT, use Copilot to help to create these rubrics. Again, with permission from faculty, if they've written the assignments, things like that. And again, trying to get faculty to create a rubric sometimes can be, especially from the without anything, without any starting point, it can be a challenge for them because again, they know what they want, but trying to get it into this document can be tough. So again, one of the things that I've done is I was able to upload an assignment and just give it a simple prompt based on the assignment information, create a grading rubric. The course is a graduate level course. So I wanted to make sure that I put in there that this was for a graduate level course, that this is for students, at that level. And basically, it's not perfect, but it really gave a good starting point. It hit all of the major criteria that we needed in this assignment. In this case, there were 8 pieces here. Decent metrics on where those hit. So, it may not be 100% with where we want, but again, this is going to be where we bring the human element back into it, and we're going to come in and be able to edit this. So we're not starting out at nothing. And that's really, for me, that's the key thing, is that we're not starting from the beginning with things. We actually have something that we can work with. I did the same thing in Copilot, and it gave me a little bit different rubric. Again, very similar in that it's got the same or very similar criteria. We've also got 4 different categories. This time it did it by weights for each category. So you can specify how you want the rubric to be set up. I went very general on both of these prompts, but the more specific you get, the better results you're going to get as well to match what you really want to get. So up next is media creation. And this is one of those areas that is, there's some things that I think it's great with, but at the same time, it does take away from, some of that human creativity in some cases. We were able to use a specific tool for some video creation for one of the courses that I worked with. And the reason why we chose to do this was because the instructor who was developing the course, one, most likely wasn't going to be the one teaching it at any point. He didn't have time to record videos. And we also, and it was also a little bit of a request from the person who was running this particular course that we use some AI with this for the videos. So we took that and we had access to Synthesia. And I'm going to show a little bit of a quick clip of this. And then I'm going to show you how this works, kind of the back end of it. But basically, all we did was put in the text and I designed the slides, but everything else was created with AI.
Recall the second price auction for a single item with 2 bidders. Each bidder submits a bid, and the highest bidder wins but pays the second highest bid. Here, the payment can be interpreted as covering the externality. The winner's presence prevents the
Okay, so we have a British accent on this one. When I was doing this, most of the accents were pretty British for the voices. So they've added some additional as well. So, but I'm gonna kind of show you the back end here. We've got, so this is actually from the video that it came from. But basically down here, this is where I can put in the content. So this is what our AI person is going to say. And, so just kind of welcome back to module 2. And I can change this text to anything and it will change it in real time. So we've got that on these different ones. So this is the slide you just saw. We've got some different, points here for when things come in. So you can kind of play around with it like PowerPoint in some ways, to be able to, create these videos. So I can change. So like, let's say I want to change my guy here. I don't want to use Rhodey anymore. I'm going to change it to Reese here. And I'm going to use this version of Reese. I think that's how you might say his name. So I just changed it. And now I want to change his voice. So I can come in here and I can go, I'm going to actually use Jimmy's voice here. So I'm going to click that. And
welcome back to Module 2, Mechanism Design. When our goal shifts from maximizing welfare in a single item auction.
So it changed that voice immediately. Okay, maybe I want to keep Rhodey's voice, but keep Reese here.
Welcome back to Module 2.
And again, it changes it right away. So it makes the development of the videos pretty easy. I'm not a video producer. We actually do have video producers on our team, which is great. But again, didn't have as much access to a video producer for this course. It was a weird build. So we were able to use all this and put it all together. And then basically I would hit generate and it would create the new version of the video for me. So if I just wanted to view it though, I will say this, and some of the different avatars are better than others. But
welcome back to Module 2.
He doesn't blink.
Design. When our goal
That's
shifts
the one thing
from
I don't
maximizing
like.
welfare in a single item auction to...
But his voice, his mouth matches up. You notice that when I was doing the preview, when I was editing it, his mouth didn't match up with the audio. And that's just because of the way that it just hadn't processed it all the way through yet. You actually have to generate it to get it to match up. But at least it gives you a good idea of what it'll look like. So I've also, all of the graphics within this presentation, I actually used ChatGPT to create those. And I was able to use Purdue colors just by adding in some prompting with saying, please use, whatever our color codes are for the graphics. So, again, having some of those within a course to help, fill some things out can be helpful as well. So some other ways that I've used AI is, again, developing visual ideas. So like maybe there's a concept that you want to create a graphic for, but you're not sure how to, how that might look. Asking ChatGPT just like, how could I visualize this, particular concept. And you're not asking it to generate that image, but it'll give some ideas on how you can, how you could visualize that, or how you could show that in a different way. So I found that to be really helpful for certain concepts that I'm not an expert in. And again, that same course, there were some times where I did use that in that game theory course that I just showed some of the videos for. Helping to connect ideas. So Notebook LM has been really helpful for, like, if you've got a few different documents and you want to try to help connect some of the ideas. What it'll do is, it'll create, I'm guessing most of you have seen this, but it will create a podcast of those, based upon whatever documents you put into it. So if you've got a couple articles or, something along those lines, and you want to see, maybe what some of those connections are, you can put that in there, create a podcast, and it helps to connect some of those things. A friend of mine who's a professor at a different university, he was getting ready to start through tenure, and he needed to fill out paperwork and all that. He put his CV in Notebook LM, and it helped him to connect some of the things that he's done in different ways. So it was really helpful for him as a thinking through some of those explanation processes and things like that. So I definitely would recommend, playing around with it if you haven't. Again, this is from Google. Then, maybe when you're meeting with your subject matter experts, your instructors, using, creating meeting notes of those meetings, whether you use Notion, which I love Notion. It's a great note taking, and it's my brain. So I keep a lot of stuff in there. You can bring in Otter AI to record virtual meetings. Teams has got some recording available too. There's a variety of things out there, but it will help to record, help to, again, grab that meeting information, and then you can summarize it, because again, I don't remember things well. So having additional ways to help me to be able to refer back to, what somebody said, or, what did we say we were going to do with XYZ? This can be a great way to do that as well. So some challenges and best practices with AI. I've touched on some of these things already, but AI is not perfect. You're not going to get 100% accuracy on the things you create within AI. There has to be a check that needs to be done. You do the first check. If you've got your subject matter expert, if it's appropriate, have them check it. One session at a conference I was at I guess it was a month before last, there's a session where Dr. Timothy Stafford introduced this principle, or this framework called the HI-HO framework, the human in, human out framework. And there's a little dash in between HI-HO, and that dash is the AI. So basically, we're putting the information into AI. AI does its thing and produces it, but then we need to take that information and we need to adapt it to best fit our actual uses. So again, it's not a, just take it and go. We need to make sure that we're adapting it and using it in a manner that's appropriate for our use. We also need to think about the ethical considerations. There might be some content bias within the content, because again, it pulls information from a variety of sources. In life, and humans, there's bias. So we need to be, keeping an eye out for that. I'm not going to say that it's, there's no bias, but we definitely need to look for that. We also want to be transparent about about AI use. So any place that I use AI to create things, I try to make sure that I note that, in some way. So there's some different things that can be done there. And then institutional goals, we all of our institutions probably have goals or have policies surrounding AI, and we need to make sure that we're matching those policies, and that we're looking at furthering some of the institutional goals that may be set. So that's something that we definitely need to be considering when we use AI and how we talk about AI, with faculty as well. And I do want to give a couple of resources here. This is actually a blog that the friend who used Notebook LM for his CV and I have created. So it's tenureintech.com. Love for you to check it out. But we have some different resources and an AI toolkit that we've put together to kind of help out. And we're working on updating it and things along those lines as well. So, and I can show you. So basically, some of the topics that we're still new into this, but this is a series that I've started working on in designing with the machine, using AI to jumpstart your course design. He oftentimes will present about, things, faculty side of things. So, here's the post I wrote about the human in, human out, or the Hi-Ho framework a little bit here. Dungeons and Dragons in higher ed. So, you can't go wrong here. But we do also have a resource page. We're working on still building out some of this. So there's a few resources here. We're working on building that out more. We're also working on, continuing to add to our AI toolkit. So definitely recommend if you can check that out, or if you're interested in that, please take a look. And if you have suggestions for anything that we could post, or if you want to post something too, you can always reach out about that as well. So I'm going to open it up for questions now. So I don't know. I've seen a couple questions that I haven't addressed. So how do I know AI use? I see that one in there. So again, like I had on the slides here, oops. Let me go back to, so like on my slides, I might put, what was generated with and how it was generated. For if it's in a course, like within the LMS, I may have, we may have a note somewhere, either, within the syllabus or somewhere that basically states that, certain aspects or certain images were created using, ChatGPT, Copilot, whatever it might have been. So there's some different ways that we have noted that. So it's definitely something I think that's important, and that we do need to make sure that we do note. Again, it just goes back to being ethical about that. And then I saw, okay, somebody has Notion, Otter, and Zoom, okay. So, so basically I'm kind of seeing that in, yeah. So basically we've got, so Notion does a lot of things, but it does have an AI component where it can, record audio and then summarize it. I've played around with that a little bit with some meetings, but it is limited unless you pay for it, as are most things with AI. Kind of the same thing with, with Otter. Again, it'll go in as in a meeting, whether it be Zoom or Teams. You have to, obviously always check with the people within the meeting. Tom, at the beginning of this meeting, said that those aren't allowed in this meeting, which, in certain instances, you don't want to use those. But for, one-on-one meetings, things like that, if the other person's okay with it, but Otter I've used many times. Again, it gives a nice summary of the meeting and some of those talking points, things that we, said, who's going to do what. Again, it comes in really handy, because I also am terrible at taking notes. And that kind of helps to take that piece out, so I don't have to think about taking notes while we're talking about things. Do we have any other questions here?